I know speedo, mate. He said, I know what 50 miles an hour feels like. I had 48 hours off work for a weekend. I spent 24 of them driving. It was a long
That's
weekend.
dedication.
Chucked it on a pallet, put some casters on the bottom, pushed it home. We're going to touch on the SEC.
Yes, the Mercedes.
Collecting parts at work. I always find my cars generally when I'm at work.
Yep.
Because you drive around everywhere and you take wrong turns down little rat runs and you find little gems. Audi Coupe GT.
I was just thinking that.
Found that in work. Customer's car. And we got chatting and I ended up having off of him, restoring it, and it's back on the road. Another one saved. Happy days.
Incredible.
Fantastic. But took a wrong turn and going to collect a part from a guy in work and saw a Mercedes. Didn't know anything about it. I just went, coupe, black, looks interesting.
Yep.
Insert picture. I didn't even know what an SEC was, but I just saw it and I thought, have to buy that car, have to purchase that vehicle. And I knocked on the door. I set a reminder, like you do. You drive away and you think, run the reg. Oh, it's been off the road a few years. Okay, cool, we'll go back. I'll go back on Wednesday night. I didn't. I went back the same day. Knocked on the door immediately. He wasn't in. Knocked on the door the same night. And I said, oh, just seen the car. I don't know what it is. You interested in selling it? Fate had intervened once again, Jim. He said, you know what? People ask about this car all the time. And I always say no. But you seem like a nice chap. Let's talk. And I was like,
no way.
The unpurchasable car is being purchased by me? I was like, this is good. I'm happy with this. This is great. He'd owned the car for 20 years, I think. He bought it converted. Turned out it was a very rare 040 black. Beautiful, beautiful black Mercedes 500 V8 SEC. Magnolia leather, black piping, orthopedic seats, lovely spec, and the wide body kit. Nice. Wide body. And the correct wheels. It even came with a spare set of Penta wheels.
Oh yes.
Because I think it had monoblocks on it. Split rim monoblocks. I think it's monoblocks. I'm not entirely sure. And it even came with these rare spare Penta wheels. And I was like, amazing, whatever. Yeah, I'll have them, chuck them in. So we had a look at it and it wasn't running. And I said, you know what, I'll come back on Sunday and I'll have a little play around with it for you, see what we can do. Pulled the Dizzy cap off, clean the rotor arm and the contacts, got it running. It hadn't run in a year or more, and it hadn't been on the road for probably at least 5. And the crazy man said, want to go for a drive? And I went, not really, mate. No, not really. Bear in mind, before we got it running, I'd had a look in the back and found, I'll show some pictures. It was fucked. It was really rusty. Tires were going flat, and it just turned the key for the first time in a long, long time. Do you want to go for a drive?
Love the enthusiasm.
No.
No.
He said, oh, come on. For old time's sake. And I went, well, your funeral. Yeah, right, go on then. So I sat in, and he took me up and down the ring road in it. Mental. Did he hang about in it? No, he did not. He was mad. And he got back, and he said, yeah, I'm ready to sell it now. And I was like, cool, I'll make you 2 promises. I always do. Same with the Coupe GT, same with the 500 SEC. I said, I'll make you 2 promises. I'll save your car and get it back on the road, and I'll take you out for one last spin in it when I get it back on the road and done. And he said, no worries. And I said, well, what do you want for it? I knew nothing about these cars. I couldn't find another wide body on the internet at all. And he said, I want $7,500 for it. And I went, it seems a bit strong, mate. I got, bear in mind, I had no money at the time.
Yeah.
Because I always find stuff at the wrong time. I had no cash. I had no money on me. And I thought, oh, someone's going to have to take out a loan. That'd be me. And I went, I can't do that. And then I had a look underneath it, found it was rotten. And I went, nah. And at this point, the car that he didn't want to sell to anyone, he now really wanted to sell to me. And I went, well, I said, I can't. I said, no. I said, look, it's fucked. I got, like, the Healy's in the garage, I think, at the time. I said, I got no facilities to do the welding. I'm going to have to pay someone to weld this up. Ended up paying me, mate, a lot of money, to be fair, to weld it up. And I said, no, I'm walking away. And I edged out the door. I'm like, not buying this car. No. It
No.
needs so much. I know nothing about it. He said, make me an offer. And I thought, two grand. And I thought, I know nothing about it, but 2 grand, I suppose, gives me a bit of wiggle room.
There's enough bits if it was terminal that you could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said 2.5. And I went, yeah, all right, shook his
Okay.
hand, whatever, fair enough. Picked it up, drove it onto the trailer, took it home. Hit
Incredible.
insert picture of it on the drive. Give it a good wash. Spent a load of money, because the parts are so expensive, on doing a load of work to it. And got it back on the road and saved it. Took him out for a drive in it, and then sold it afterwards to Simon, classic Mercedes spares, who bought it from me. I actually sold him the wheels and the grille. I rang him up. I said, look, I've just bought this SEC wide body, don't know anything about it. Told him what I paid for it, and he was like, that's ridiculous. I was like, what? I paid too much? I paid too much?
Yeah.
And he was like, no, way too cheap. And I'm like, okay. I did all right.
Oh, that's good to know.
So I told him how much I paid for it. 2.5 grand. I said it came with a spare set of wheels, Penta, which offsets. And I was like, I don't know, like 9s at the back and 7s at the front, for example. And he was like, oh, they're the good ones. And I'm like, want to buy them? He was like, yeah. I said, I got some new old stock parts as well that he chucked in. I'll have those. So he turned up to see it and to buy the bits. I told him I paid 2.5 grand. And then he come and he bought the wheels for £1 grand. And he bought a set of springs and a grill off me for 400 quid. So at this point, he gave me 1,400 quid. He knew it then owed me £1,100. And he offered to buy it off me that day. He offered me £6,000 on top of what he'd already given me. So that would have been £7,400. That would have been 5 grand. And I'm like, can't do it. I promised the guy I'd take him out for a spin in his old car. He'd lost his wife since. They had so many special memories in that car.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. It was not, money's not important at this stage. It's the principle. I promised him I'd save his car.
It's admirable.
And I'd take him for a drive for it. I could have just parted out and gone, no, I'm done. But I thought, no, because I want to experience this car. I want to see what it's all about. Turns out underneath the bonnet, AMG played around the engines on some of them. So of course I pulled the rocker covers off. It had a solid lifter conversion, and I think the lifters had been machined and lightened. And I was like, all the pictures like the AMG on the internet and this, and I'm like, this has had all this like rare unobtainium stuff done to it all this years ago. This is a really special, cool car.
Yeah.
But we could never prove who built it. If it was an original, because it was a pre-merger car.
Yes.
So there were no genuine AMG, like your C63 AMG now, it's an AMG. But the pre-merger were before AMG and Mercedes merged.
Yep.
So any car was either sent back to Germany and done in Germany by AMG themselves, or by one or two approved dealers in England, Stratton's,
Right, okay.
I think. But then there was no records because there were no computers. So there's no paper to prove that they're genuine and who did them. So if you can prove you got an original car, then the value is like 6 figures. They're worth a fortune. But this one, you can never prove it. So it was what it was. I believed it was genuine because it was well done and all the bodywork held up beautifully. And the guy that I bought it from believed it was genuine as well. He said he thought it was genuine. He took it to a few specialist people that know the wide bodies inside out, and they thought it was genuine. And at the time, he said, I'll buy it off you for whatever, like 6.5 grand or something on top of the money he'd already given me. I said, no, but I'll give you first refusal. And he said, fine. So I had it for 6 months, had my fun, rolled around in a old wide body. When I look back, it's probably one of the coolest things I ever bought.
I did like it. I remember
was
seeing the photos of it.
mate. It was so cool. And it was quick as well, because it had been played around with.
Yeah. It was very late 80s, early 90s money car. Like, you needed the red braces and like it, but there's
Cool.
just something very attractive about that sort of car.
Mate, it was a very, very cool. Like I said, looking back, I reckon it's one of the coolest cars I ever bought. And that was on a wrong turn. That was just luck that I bought that.
I love it.
The Cosmo, luck. Right place, right time.
It's that similar story with the Cosmo.
Scotty was buying RX-8s. And we went to see Carl Hayward. Because if you want a rotary, you go to Carl.
Yeah.
Carl knows his bits. He knows his onions. So he went to look at an RX-8. Scotty never bought it, and I turned up and I went, "Carl, that's Cosmo." He's like, "Yes, it is, James. That's correct." In his Gordon Murray-esque voice, perfectly calm. I don't think that man's ever got excited, but if he has, he would still appear.
You wouldn't want to play him at poker, would you?
No, definitely not. I think he'd win every time. And I turned up. I said, "Carl, that's Cosmo. I need to buy it. I wasn't buying the car that day, but you see a Cosmo, there's only less than 10 in the UK. You must purchase it. Them's the rules." And he said, "Funny you should say that, James. That one's nice, but I have a second one." Who has two Cosmos? Both 20Bs? How? And I looked at this thing, and the one in the car park was toast.
Yeah.
Paint was peeling. It wasn't rusty, but paint was peeling. The loom had been cut. Seats had been removed. No engine, no gearbox. And I was like, that needs a 1UZ FE from an Lexus LS400.
Yeah.
Quad cam, 32 valve, naturally aspirated.
Gorgeous
ripper,
engine.
Auto, manual, don't care. That's got to go in that.
Yeah.
And you just run it as a bit of a ratter. You know, a bit ratty, but
just
cool.
to get it moving.
Because it's Cosmo, because it's cool as hell.
Yeah.
That's what you do. None of the electrics will work. You'll have to make your own loom, but you just go with it. So it turns out he's got this other one. Factory 20B, no engine. And I'm like, that sounds expensive. So we put a bit of a price together. We've done a bit of a deal from Summit many years ago when I gave him an RX-7, early RX-7. I said, don't give me any money, Carl. I know you're good for it. I'll get the money back at some point in a car or a parts or an RX-8. I'll be back. You know, I'll be back. So we ended up doing that, and I ended up buying the Cosmo. And I spent the last year trying to source all the rare unobtainium 20B engine parts, of which I've got most.
How have you found that, given the
Carl
rarity
found
of
them all. Carl found all of them. He's been doing rarities for 40 odd years. He knows everybody that knows everybody that knows everybody. And he made countless phone calls on my behalf. And he's just, every now and again, he'd ring up and go, "Find the set of plates. Do you want them?" "I ain't got any money, Carl. I'll find some." And then, find some money and buy them. And then find the set of rotors, lighten and balance with counterweights. "Yeah, I'll take it." Find a turbo pack. "Yeah, fine." The only thing we can't find is the E-shaft that goes through the middle of the engine. And there's only one guy in the world that makes them in New Zealand, and they're over $4,000. And there's only a few people that have got them, the original ones, and they're all in race engines because a 20B with a turbo will make 1,000 horsepower. So the quest continues, which is another reason why we're sat in a garage with no roof, because parts keep popping up and I have to purchase them. And so do cars. And at the end of the day, Jim, opportunities like that, they're not. I can buy a roof. I can buy a roof any day.
Of course.
I can get someone to do some rendering any day of the week. However, rare unobtainium parts, rare unobtainium cars, do they turn up every day of the week? They turn up, and if you're a petrol head, you got to go with it and then suffer the consequences. I'll leave you with that thought, Jim.
I can't argue it. I think that's a good way to be.
Sun's gone in my eyes again. I've got to move. My retinas.
I'm cool. I'm good right here. So.
Yeah, you're fine. I'm getting a suntan, mate. Winter tan.
Must be the reflection.
Definitely. The reflection of that lovely clean Cortina. But yeah, that's pretty much my car history. Well, some of it, the interesting parts of it.
Can we just, I have to ask this. How many in total?
48. 48 cars. Metro, when I was 16.
Nice.
Bought it, done a few bits to it before it even passed me test. So I had a car before I could even drive. A red Mini 1000, a red and white Mini, a blue Mark II Mini Cooper. Bought it from the local groundskeeper at the leisure centre around the corner. Like you do. That one went over to Malta for classic car racing. The Speedo broke, so we had no Speedo, and he turned up in Bristol and he said, "I'm driving this to Spain." I said, "You got no Speedo, mate?" He said, "I know what 50 miles an hour feels like." I said, "You crack it on, son." A white Renault Clio, glass headlights, both headlights fell out. Bought it from a kiddie in school. Oh, frick. White CRX, first CRX that I ever had. And that was a bit rusty. Cut holes in the rear bumper to make it faster.
Of course.
I'll see if I can dig out some pictures. Yeah, definitely. That rear bumper acts like a parachute. You've got to cut holes in it. It makes it faster. White CRX from Japan, the one that I wrapped with Stanley on the motorway. That got sold for parts. silver CRX. Bought it from a guy on the forum, and he was an absolute bell end. Went to buy it, had loads of extra bits on it. Went to pick it up the week after. All the bits had disappeared. Oh, they didn't come with the car. Frick.
That is one of my pet peeves with ads when they show you the car with the wheels on and it's low, and it's like, well, if you want the wheels in the lowering kit, you've got to pay extra. Like, well, what?
Clickbait.
You just tell me. Yeah,
Clickbait.
You tell me how much I'm paying, and that's what I'm getting.
Yeah,
it's all I need to know.
Oh yeah. That never happens.
I'll get off my soapbox now.
Red UK RX-7, we talked about that. Silver RX-7 went cream, lost a fortune on it, went to Germany. Black RX-7, blew it up for the sake of a cable tie, lost £1,000. White Project RX-7, that was one from Carl as well.
Nice.
Love it. I got some pictures of that. I went absolutely to town on the engine bay. It was gorgeous. That was full Bridgeport as well, I think. I'll insert a clip of it idling. Bob, 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 bob. It was beautiful.
It's so distinctive.
It was ropey, but the engine was solid, and that's all that matters. Red Mini, found that on the side of a lay-by when I was going to work. Drove past a kiddie in a lay-by in a Mini, and I thought, he looks lost. I'll talk to him. Nah, I just wanted to buy his car. I said, "You all right, mate?" He said, "I've got a job interview. I'm late. I don't know where I'm going." I said, "Down there, take a left, take a right. What's the story with the car?" "Oh, if I get this job, I'm going to have to sell it." I said, "Give me a number."
We'll talk.
So I ended up buying that one. Did nothing with it. Audi A8L, black 3-litre petrol. Audi A8L, grey, 4.2 TDI, twin turbo. 40 miles to the gallon. Quick as it gets. Double glazing. Bose surround sound. All the bells, all the whistles. Gorgeous.
Incredible.
Low owners. I think it's a 2-owner car. Bought it from Gary Victor Castle. Double glazing man. GVC.
That screams fake tan. I mean, I'm sure he's a lovely guy.
I never met him. Audi A3, owned it about 3 or 4 times. It was an absolute horse, a workhorse. My brother owned it. Jamie owned it. I bought it from Jamie. I bought it from my brother. My brother had it off me. I had it off Jamie. It was an absolute bag of nails, but it never stopped running. 2-litre TDI, bag of miles, awful condition car. Everything about it was wrong, but it never stopped plodding. Pulled really well, handled really well. Beautiful car. Crap car. Silver Yaris. I think that was the one I bought when I bought the first house. Yep. When I went to my sensible phase, it lasted all of like 12 minutes. A gold Yaris. I went back into a sensible phase. That lasted about 13 minutes. Mark 1 Golf GTI. Bought it with Stanley. Got our fingers burnt on that. We talked about that earlier, and I don't want this going on the internet because I hate Golf GTIs. Sorry, Volkswagen people. Austin Healey 104. Insert picture. Did that one with Dad. Gorgeous. Mark II Toyota MR2. Needed a cheap runaround. Bought it off eBay, 600 quid. Sight unseen, off the internet. Went to London in the rain and the dark and picked it up. Rust free, but pink, because all the paint had gone horrible. Sold it to my brother for buttons. He ran it round for ages, and then I sold it on his behalf, and he got his money back. £500 car. Lotus Elise 111R, talked about that. Rolls Royce Silver Spirit 3, talked about that. Yellow Mini, aka Bumblebee, standard 1000, restored by the previous guy who was a panel beater to an incredible standard. He was out washing it. I drove past when I was working, took a wrong turn, and I said, "That's my words were, that's gorgeous, I need to buy it." He said, "I'm just washing it for sale." I said, "Tell me more about it."
Fortunate.
Loads of pictures of the restoration. He'd made all his own floor pans. Incredible. He said, "But it's not running right, needs a new engine." I said,
"Done.
I'm sold. Let's go." Bought it on my lunch, picked it up after work with Anna. £2,750. £2,750.
Nice.
And that was quite a few years ago. Celestial Blue CRX. Gorgeous colour they were. MGZR. Neighbour's old car. I walked out the front of the house, and neighbour's son and daughter were there, and they were looking at the car. MGZR. He'd owned it since new. Always looked after it well, but he'd had a few bumps in it, like scraped down the doors and that.
It's had a life, yeah.
Had a life. And I said, Oh, what are you hodling around that car for? Oh, the local garage has said they'll purchase it from us for £50. I said, I'll give you 60. They said, all right then, James. We haven't got to deliver it then, have we? So that was 60 quid. Give it a good old wash. Sold it to Simon Riddler. Absolute legend of a man. And I said, look, I paid 60 quid for it. I've washed it. He said, I'll give you 400. And I'm like, fine, whatever.
Okay.
If you say so. Jaguar XJR, X308. Comfiest, fastest armchair on wheels. Faster than a Vauxhall Monaro, John. You know it. You know it. Mazda RX-8. Lasted 5 months. Rear stationary bearing failed. Blew the back end out of it. Oil all over the floor. Insert picture of me and John, led on our backs, going, that's fucked.
You and your rotaries.
Oh, I love them. They're so reliable. Audi A8L, only by long wheelbase, never by short. Don't do it. Owned twice, 3 litre TDI. Bought it on spec on eBay on a Thursday night. Now, this is an interesting story. Pause. I was going up to Scotland in Anna's car on the Saturday, and I had a 1,000-mile round trip to pick up some bits for the Healy. And I thought, I'll look at Audi A8. This had my initials and my partner's initials in the registration.
Oh.
And it was a lovely spec, bags of miles, 180 odd thousand miles. And I just thought, it's got my initials in it, her initials in it. It ends on Thursday. In 2 days' time, that was in Leeds. I'm going to Scotland.
It's halfway there.
I'm doing the journey anyway.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Sound. £3,000, I think it was. Drove out to Leeds, took it round the block, paid for it, got the keys, drove around the corner, parked it up in a random street, carried on up to Scotland, stayed overnight, picked up parts, went back down to Leeds. John jumped out of the Duke into the A8. And no, I jumped into the A8. I'd done 750 miles already in the Duke. I wanted some luxury. Of
course.
Jumped in the A8 and just coasted. I had 48 hours off work for a weekend. I spent 24 of them driving. It was a long
That's
weekend.
dedication.
Sold it to me mate, Rich. Hello, Rich. If you know the channel, you'll know. And he then had it for ages. And then I bought it back off of him. And now Stan's got it. And I think Stan's selling it again.
Tempted?
Yeah. Of course I am. It's done 207,000 miles now. But I shouldn't. But if the Audi went tomorrow, if anyone in the comments section wants to buy an Audi Coupe GT, then you'll allow me to own the A8L for the third time. Where are we? BMW E36 323i Coupe. Needed a car because the RX-8 had shit itself the day before. eBay, £600, bought it.
Nice.
Kitty had modified it to the hills, chopped springs, and it's fucked. Oh, it was terrible. And of course, I bought it, done everything to it, sold it to a guy in London, and he may be watching. He follows me on Instagram. Nice guy. And he said, I can't get to you. So I'll deliver it. So I hopped in the car and I drove all the way to London and delivered it to him. And I remember that was at the time that I was watching cryptocurrency a little bit.
Oh, okay.
And I was watching Ripple, and I left London. I left Bristol, and Ripple had started to move, and it had moved 30% in like an hour. By the time I got to London, 70%. By the time I dropped off the car, 80%. It went up 80% in one day. In the time it took me to go from Bristol to London. Talk about volatile. Fool's game, that. Mini Clubman Estate. Walked into a guy's house. Insert picture. Absolutely rotten. Walked into a guy's house to service his boiler. And before I even put the tools down, it's the same with that coupe. I turned up and I said to the apprentice, I said, I'm not going to talk about the coupe. We'll talk about it at the end of the job. He opened the door and I said, right, what's under that cover? I need to buy that. And then we got chatting and that was that. Anyway, I walked into the back room. He had a Clubman Estate in his back garden. Rotten. But he'd taken the engine and the interior out, insert picture, and he left it all in his garage. So all the important bits had been preserved, but the shell was toast. And this was half a mile from the house, maybe a mile. So I said, yeah, ignore the back boiler. That's not relevant. All right, we'll service the boiler in a minute.
We'll get to it. We'll get
to that. That's irrelevant. Need to purchase that. It was just a shell. Had nothing on it. I think the tires were all flat and it was gone. Like the roof's gone. If the roof is rusty on a Mini, it's game over. I'll insert many pictures of this car. It was. I won't allow you to bleep out a swear word. It was toast. Very bad. That's fucked. It's really fucked. And I said, I'll take that. Fantastic. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Came with a load of spares as well. I was like, fair enough. And chucked it on a pallet, put some casters on the bottom, pushed it home. Did the same with the engine. Insert a video of me dragging the engine and gearbox on a pallet, and Lee Gammon and Rich Edwards jumping on the pallet to make it heavier for me.
You've got to. I mean, to be honest,
I think that's what they call friends. That's a friend, is it? Renault Clio 2. I think it's my auntie's car. She was selling it, and she said, does James want it? Nah. Does James want a car? Yeah, all right, I'll have it. My mum said she wanted it, but it had problems. Needed a cam belt and an exhaust. And my mum said, if you buy it, do the exhaust, do the cam belt, and then I'll have it off you. Something along those lines. It was another one on the list. Another notch in the bedpost. Mercedes 500 SEC AMG, we know about that. Citroen C2, got a phone call one afternoon. Geary, my Citroen C2 shit itself. I said, how long have you had it for? From you. 13 or 14 years. Said, you ever done a cam belt on it? What's cam belt? I said, that might be snap then. straight down the garage. Jamie, put a head on that, will you please? Sold that. Had a weird hot start issue. Wouldn't start from hot.
That's strange.
No issues when I had it. Mental. Mazda RX-7 FB. Early RX-7. Took a wrong turn in at work. Found it.
Is that the pop-up headlights one?
They were all pop-up, weren't they? This was an FB, very first RX-7. Square, boxy, kind of, yeah. Cool.
I forget they're all pop-up headlights.
It was rotten. I've probably got some footage of that. It was rotten. Did a video on it. Rotten. Not to be gone again. Went over to not Malta. Went over somewhere for a racing series. That was one that Carl had off me. Audi A6 Avant 2.7 bi-turbo manual. We were looking, me and Rich Edwards. Hello, Rich. We were looking at cars on Gumtree, and he said, "Oh, I want an estate. I want something fast and comfortable." I said, "Audi A6 2-litre bi-turbo S4 engine, but you want a manual." And I found him one, good price, 1,600 quid in Bristol, round the corner. And he went, "Oh, I don't know." I said, "Look, you wanted a car. I found you a car."
Yeah. I
said, "If you don't buy it, I will." Oh, less than an hour later. "Oh, hello there. Ringing up about the A6. Yeah, I'll have that." No, nice. Sold it to a powerlifter. Oh, incredibly strong man, Bo. You might be watching as well. What's going on, Bo? I sold it to him, and I'd emotionally detached again. Like I wasn't there, and alternator failed. And instead of fixing the alternator, I rang up and said, "Alternator's failed. Can I just knock loads of money off, please?" And he went, "Yeah, no worries." So he put it on a trailer and picked it out. I couldn't be bothered to do it. Vauxhall Corsa, bought it from Rob. Never been serviced.
Oof.
I said, "When was the last time this was serviced, Rob?" He said, "Well, I have had it MOT'd every year." It was the crustiest thing I've ever seen. I did a few videos on it, and it was...
Oh, was it that one?
Yeah, terrible condition. Toyota MR2 Mark 1. We all know about that car. Insert picture of crumpled car that I saved, restored, sold, and it got crushed, basically.
Gutted. I was devastated.
That's terrible. Lexus LS 400 UCF 20, facelift, but non-VVTi, two-tone black and grey, with a horrible coloured interior. And I thought, they never made a triple black LS 400 in the UK. I'm going to make one. So I went and bought an interior the day after I bought it, ripped the interior out, popped an interior, went full kind of VIP Bipu style on it.
Cool.
Bought the number plate, slapped it on the back, sold it to Marek. And then he said, "Can you take my S-Class off me as well?" And I went, "Another car? Yeah, I'll take it." He'd had it for 6 or 7 years, never had a problem with it. The second I get it, went wrong. Sold it to Simon, the Mercedes guy. I rang up and said, "Simon, S-Class W140, please take it. Please buy it off me." He said, "No, I'm not having it." I said, £500. And he went, "Yeah, fine, I'm on my way." I was like, "Oh, that'll do. Just get rid of it." I spent a fortune on it. It lost me a fortune. VW Golf Mark IV, bought from Mr. Breach. He's owned more cars than me, and he was selling his car for cheap. So I thought, if I buy one of his cars, I then get another number on my list.
Yes.
And I can slowly catch up with him by buying his cars off of it. That worked out well. My dad bought it from me. Honda S2000 AP2. It's not an AP2. Apologies, S2000 guys. It is a facelift. Lovely car. Sold it to Henry. Lovely guy. S-Class W140. We talked about that. Honda S2000 AP1. Another fate intervention. I was driving along, minding my own business, and this S2000 has not moved in ever, for years. Never moved. All of a sudden, there's a guy outside washing it. And I pulled up and I said, "Oh, it's nice. What are you washing it for?" He said, "I'm selling it." I got a guy coming this evening. I said, "Tell him not to turn up. I'll take it." As you always do. And he said, "No, I'm a man of my word. I'll let him turn up." I said, "Well, when he doesn't turn up, call me tomorrow morning." Guy didn't turn up. Called me. I ended up buying it. It had a hard top on it. I wanted a hard top for mine, and it had a cool number plate on it. So I put the plate on retention, took the hard top off, put it on mine, and then Henry, who bought my other S2000, bought this S2000. Now, a man that buys two S2000s from you has clearly got as much of a problem as you do yourself, which is why, Henry, you've owned as many cars, if not more cars, than me. Problems. And we're restoring a car together when these garages are finished. It never stops. Toyota MR2 Mark 1 Blue. Took a wrong turning, found it, put my head in the door, left a note, and she said, "Oh, I saw a friend's car, you'll never sell it." Loads of people have asked. A week later, the phone rings. Boop, 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 boop. "Hi, you inquired about my MR2? And I was like, "Yeah, I did." And that was that. We put a deal together. It was great. It was either that or it was going to scrap. Weird story, but hey. Unos Cosmo 20B. We know about that. Jaguar XJ X300. Cheapest in the country, most ropey thing on four wheels, still keeps plodding on 1 year later. Audi Coupe GT, we know about that, we talked about it. And the Rover Mini, aka Blue Balls. I know, Bluebell. I called it Blue Balls. Partner was not impressed. So there you go, that's my history in a nutshell, and if that's under an hour, it ain't under an hour.
I'm impressed. I am impressed. After that...
Can you imagine how much you spent on cars over the years?
Dread to think. I dread to think.
Imagine how much all those cars would be worth if I would have kept them, if I didn't need to sell them to buy the next one.
You'd have...
I'd have my garage finished.
Yeah, you'd have your roof.
That's my life.
Excellent.
My life in cars. And that's me. I've stopped. I'm not buying anymore.
Is that for your benefit? For mine?
I've got an incredible partner, Jim. She's wonderful. She never questions anything. She flies for a living. She'll fly around the world and she'll come home and there'll be a different car on the drive. And all she'll say is, "That's cool. What is it?" And then we go out for a drive in it and she goes, "Not for me," or "I quite like this one." I got no complaints. Happy wife, happy life.
Exactly.
So there we go, Jim. That's my life in cars.
I've enjoyed it. It's been interesting.
Is it cathartic? What's catharsis?
Oh, good question.
I believe it is when you talk about things and you feel better about talking about things, but it's not, is it? It's been nice to talk, Jim.
Yeah, I've
that's
enjoyed
a technical
it.
term. It's been nice to talk. And yeah, obviously shameless plug. If you've watched this far, you're an absolute hero.
Yes, thank you very much.
Make sure you head over to the Resto Nation YouTube channel, link in description, pop out banner at the top of the video. You know how it works. And watch some of the builds.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. See you soon.